Steve from Yamaha, and I'm very proud today to be here with GAK.co.uk to show you the new Montage synth. So what we've got is a brand new evolution of the Motif. We've got multi-engine synth now, so we've got all the guts from the original Motif XF, but times about 10. We've also got some, got 1.75 gig of sample memory to put your own samples in there. And another engine, you've got an FMX engine, okay? So you've got AWM2 sampling and FMX running side by side, both of which have got 128 note polyphony, all of which can all be put through up to 32 insert effects, motion control sequencing, which is a fantastic new way of moving between different sounds, LFOs, motion sequencing, and this all fantastic super knob here, which melds everything together. So the bare bones of it, you've got all the guts from the Motif, so it's completely backwards compatible with the XF, and you can also load up XS patches via software. Over the side here, we've got AD input. So if you're familiar with the MOX, this can also be used now as a full-on audio interface. So yeah, it hasn't got a sequencer inside. It's not a workstation. It's got a very basic song recording function, but they've switched it around by making it super augmented with DAW. So it's now class compliant. So you can plug this directly into your iOS device and use it as an audio interface for that. And if I was to plug this into my DAW, like Cubase for example, it would see 3 stereo inputs and 16 stereo outputs from here. So it can be run as a very powerful sort of control surface and sort of hub for your studio. For example, I could run a vocal track dry from Cubase along with a drum loop and maybe YouTube, process them on the internal effects here, and then send them back over 16 stereo outputs merged in with both the engines here. So extremely powerful in the studio. For live use, brilliant. So I've got all these controls over here. So I've got my 8 continuous rotary controllers. I've got my faders, which are all latched. So I've got sort of like ladder style LEDs where I can see exactly where they are all the times when I'm live. Over here, I've got my pitch and mod wheels. I've got ribbon controller. I've got 2 assignable keys, and I've also got motion sequencing, which is fantastic. It's basically automation of things like LFOs, pans, effects, anything you want to chuck at it. So if you use automation within your DAW, or if you're using automation within VSTIs like Massive, you'll know what sort of sequences you can create, sort of big squelching bass lines, sort of evolving pads, and sort of things you can't really create on hardware at the moment. So that's a very cool feature. Sticking with this side, we've got the super knob, okay? Super knob doesn't control anything on its own. It actually controls all 8 of these parameters at once. So you can have this controlling, for example, filter and cutoff. So while the filter and cutoff are ramping up, you could have the volume ramping down, so it doesn't sort of get all over the top. And you can also have it maybe ramping up the distortion, taking the chorus down, so you can have it controlling multiple parameters at times. Good thing about this, it's also controllable on the FC 7-foot switch, so I can do this completely hands-free while I'm playing, okay? Live use, it kicks us because we've got, now we've got the ability to sidechain, okay? So I can now take an audio input from, for example, a drummer, stick a mic in his kick drum, take the audio feed from his drum and tell this to either BPM sync it, or I can tell this to activate the sidechain. So every time the kick drum goes, this will duck what I'm playing. So now I can play in time with the rest of the band without sort of sticking out quite a bit like sort of live synth players can do. We've got a killer full touchscreen here, which is really cool for live. It's got all your functions you need to see. It's all beautifully touch sensitive, and you also have a live set feature where you can add annotations to all of your sounds. So it's really cool for reminding yourself what's going on when you're on stage. As normal with Yamaha, they've kept the category search side over here, so you can still dial up all your sounds quite quickly. You can search by piano, keyboard, organ, pad, synth, and you can dial straight in here. Or you can use a library function, again, very much like using a DAW or VST, where everything's all category searched via styles and sort of pads, etc. Best thing to do now would be to stop the talking and play some killer sounds, okay? So this gives you an idea of both engines running at the same time. So we've got strings, we've got some effects from the AWM sort of sampling side. but I can fade them in and change to a more FM sound. Now back to the AWM pad. It's pretty expressive. Okay, so again, what I've got here is seamless sound switching, which is another new thing. So because it's always in multi-mode, I can go straight to the next sound and it won't cut off the last. That's because you've got a load of power going on here and up to 32 simultaneous insert effects, so it's never going to run short. Beautiful acoustic piano. Lovely grand piano sample from the CFX, which is about 3 times bigger than the last Motive sound, so incredible. You've got all your Rhodes and your Whirlies, so okay, but the cool thing about this now is I've got scenes, so I can have different Rhodes sounds instantly assigned to different buttons up here. And I've got the super knob controlling some different sounds, and I can also have that giving more expression and reverb, for example. And I can even hear all the key off samples. Okay, so back to me gallery. So I've got my Whirly gallery set up. Okay, so it's got all the traditional Motive style sounds. You've got beautiful pianos, great strings, cool brasses, loads of pads, but it also tries to expand on that. So now we've got FM, which can give you some sort of like real cutting electronic sound. So you've got and this is where the super knob really comes into play. So I've got, so not only is this controlling the sound, it's also controlling the portamento at the same time. So and I've got a cool vowel effect on the mod wheel. So quite cool, quite cutting. Motion sequencing, okay, so what I mentioned earlier about the automation of LFOs and sort of various things. This is a good example. So I've got a nice sort of squelchy bass, quite a cool sound. So what you can see there is one of the motion sequences going on. So that's various lanes where you can sort of automate all your different effects. So squelchy. Okay, kicking off with some more sounds. So we've got, let's have a look, some classic sort of classic Motive style ARPs, but with a beautiful FM sort of feature to it. So let's go. So that's all nice. I've got all my scenes over here which can give me different arpeggios. Bring another one in. I'm going to use my hand now to show you the super knob going. this is a good example of sidechaining. Okay, so you've got a sort of like a basic trancey sort of pad here. You've got super knob control bringing in various different elements. And on the bottom here, I've got a bass drum, okay, a kick drum. So when I hit the kick, it activates a sidechain on the pad. So very, very basic. Have that sidechaining affected to like another track with internally. So you've got an arpeggio running with some drums, or you can have it from an external sync. So you could have an audio output from your laptop with a drum loop, or from a kick drum, or a click track coming from Ableton, Cubase Live, anything you like. So really, really quite cool for live use. Back with some different sounds. Okay, so we've got. Good example of the sound switching. So you have. And the polyphony. Next sound. Ramp up a bit more reverb here. This gives you a good idea of how you can sort of fade the two sounds into each other. Acoustic sound. Idea with this one, you've got another arpeggio running, which is quite cool. When you hit two notes at the same time, I'll do a little trill. So. Again, pretty cool. Big FM sounds, which is what we like. Another demonstration of some huge sounds you can get out of here. So we've got a nice mix with the knob going through different sounds. So we have. Sidechain nicely. And that's a really brief introduction into the Yamaha Montage, available in Montage 6, 7 and full-on 8, 88 weighted key versions, out in the shops in May, and yeah, come check it out.